This is how Overwatch 2 can fix itself or improve its problems going into 2024. Happy New Year, I am Abby. I'm with you in today's video and I'll be talking to you about my potential fixes for Overwatch 2 in order to make it a better game. Obviously, this is in my opinion, so if you want to disagree in a respectful manner, feel free to do so within the comment sections after watching the actual video. Because some people tend to disagree and they don't realize that the point that they made, I made it in the video, but I had context that they missed, and then it becomes a bit of an embarrassing experience for them in the comments when other people tell them otherwise. Regardless, that is besides the point. Let's talk about how to fix some of Overwatch 2's major problems. Number one, we need to get rid of the heroes from the battle pass. There's no ifs, there's no buts about this. We need to get them out. Like, Overwatch 2's heroes are core and integral to the gameplay design and gameplay philosophy of this game. Like, they are the weapons that you use to be able to play this game. And when you have one character that somebody else might not, there's no denying that the person that paid for this character does inherently have a quote-unquote pay-to-win advantage, even if it is a little bit time limited. Like, yes, at some point that other player will unlock 𝐒𝐈𝐓 as well. Like, this season has been without doubt the most frustrating one, because 𝐒𝐈𝐓 has been in a bit of a pay-to-win situation where not only is this hero so easily allowing people to climb up the ladder, but he is also just the best tank melter in the game. He's just so good at shredding tanks to the point that you are seeing people leave the game in competitive mid-game, buying the battle pass, coming back with 𝐒𝐈𝐓 because they just get frustrated. Like, they're like, I don't have 𝐒𝐈𝐓, and if I don't play him, I'm just going to instant lose. And unfortunately, you know, the way I see it is that Blizzard, we need to get rid of the heroes from the battle pass, and we need to be smarter with how we do monetize the battle pass. And I'm going to explain how to do that in a little bit. In order for Overwatch to also win back player trust and community sentiment, because the number one thing that we're trying to improve with all these changes is that basically, without doubt, Team 4 as well as everybody at Blizzard has broken the trust of the Overwatch community and the global gaming community. We need to be able to win back these things. So first and foremost, that is the most important thing that we need to do. Heroes, the actual gameplay design should be free for everybody to access, and we should never ever have to like lock them behind a battle pass. That's stupid, that's ridiculous. This is not how it works. It cannot work in a game like Overwatch, and it doesn't matter if the hero is weak or if the hero is strong. It's not the right way to do it, right? It's not the right way to monetize this game. Again, because these heroes are like weapons, and sometimes you need a specific weapon to deal with a specific character, and if you don't have that weapon, well, then you just sit there and you take the L. Like, what are you supposed to do about it, right? Anyways, I think I've made my point very clear about the hero thing. Let's move on. Number two, improving the battle pass and the quest system. I really didn't think that a game like Overwatch from Blizzard would struggle to understand how to create unique quests, fun things to do, to be able to progress through your battle pass, especially since, did you know that the people that actually bought the PvE, at first they were using the PvE to level their battle passes, and then Blizzard just like heavily nerfed the XP that you could get? Like, why would you do that? Like, if somebody is enjoying Overwatch in a PvE setting, even if it is just limited to those 3 maps or whatever, why would you like take away their fun? Like, they're still playing the game, they're still like gaining experience, they're still having fun in their own way within the game of Overwatch 2. Let them gain that experience. In fact, give them some stuff to do that, hey, like, if you have like, you know, if you have bought the missions for you know, like the 3 missions for the PvE, you can have like a different like weekly quest system that you can use, like, to level up your battle passes faster, you know, and maybe that could then encourage people to buy the PvE, because it's like, hey, I have more stuff to do, more ways to level the battle pass. So this way, like, they can use that as a way to alleviate the potential sales that they lose from taking the heroes up. Regardless, my point isn't to, like, the monetization point that I want to make isn't actually this. It's just some ideas for Blizzards to think about, right? Another thing also is, like, they need to genuinely make the arcade more fun. Like, the arcade is a lifeless husk of game modes that barely are touched, and the wider community just doesn't care about it. Like, Blizzard has done a poor job of making people care about it, and it would be really nice if, like, when you do go into the arcade, like, if there was, like, you know, some rewards. Like, you guys remember in Overwatch 1, the game modes like arcade or even quick play, they would give you this award like, hey, if you pick this game mode, you're going to get like 10-20 credits. Like, they could lock, like, you know, like maybe every 3 days 10-20 credits to for people to farm from here, so it gives like free-to-play players a way to make the credits to buy battle pass, and this would be good for community sentiment as well as player retention, because there is something to do in Overwatch. And for the casual player base, they can actually go more into the arcade, because Jared News has made it clear that quick play is supposed to be a little bit of a sweaty experience, despite pretty much everybody on the planet like wanting to disagree that it shouldn't be like that, but here we are today, right? So they need to make the arcade a lot more fun to approach. They need to actually make some new game modes, right? Like, I think my disappointment, especially with the events as well, I'm gonna slide them in here, is the fact that they promoted that there would be a new winter event, and that event wasn't even a new game mode or something. That event was a new shop that you have to pay for, because if you don't pay for this shop, you're not even able to get like two of the skins that are like big standouts, Kerrigan Widowmaker and the like, Reinhardt recolor, the cardboard recolor. That's really cool. Actually, I highly recommend it. Like, if you have $5 to spare, go for it. I really love that skin. It's really fun to play with. But that's besides the point. That's not the point. Like, cosmetics are not an event. Like, cosmetics are just that. They're cosmetics. They're not content. When you promise somebody a new event, the idea is that you promise them new gameplay content. Yes, cosmetics can be a part of that, because cosmetics are a part of the content that's delivered to the consumer, but they are just that at the end of the day. They are cosmetics. We cannot get this confused. I have a video on this coming later, because I feel like the Overwatch community, out of all the other gaming communities does not understand this that well. So that is something that we need to improve. Overall, events and the way that they work, that's very important. And in general, the PvE also needs improvements. Like, I don't understand how the boss fights in this game are still just, like, they're just bullet sponges. There's no difficulty spike. There's no interesting mechanics. There's like even something as basic as, okay, like the boss is really strong, destroy these 4 towers one by one, and then attack the boss, and it'll be weak. Like, just these basic things that people have done in the workshop. Like, how are the people in workshop making a better PvE experience than the people at working at Blizzard is beyond me, The next thing that needs to be done, now there is some form of this coming the next season anyway, is we need to generally improve the matchmaker, and we need to improve incentives for people to play competitive. We need to win back competitive integrity. Now, I'm going to go on a hot take that competitive integrity has a lot to do with the state of the game's balance, as well as balancing this game from a skill to reward ratio. Because if you balance the game from a skill to reward ratio perspective, when people get frustrated that a certain hero has reached its peak, they would want to pick up a new hero, therefore inciting them to be a lot more like, competitive in the sense that, well, I want to win. And while this character, let's say I pick up Reaper works up until maybe Platinum, but after Platinum, I think it's time I pick up an actual proper flanker, like, let's say, Genji, Tracer, Sombra, 𝐒𝐿, because their skill ceiling might be higher. It's time that I pick up these characters and I learn them in order to evolve myself as a player, and then in turn I will evolve like my SR as well, right? Like, it's really important for Overwatch that from a balancing perspective, we really have to take into account skill to value ratios. I'm not saying that there are certain heroes that should never be viable. While I do think that characters like Bastion and Torbjorn have proven that anytime that they're viable, they're just really frustrating to play with and against, I can understand why Blizzard would want to homogenize these roles, or, well, these characters to a certain extent. So the way I see it is like, okay, fine, even if you want these characters to feel healthier, I'm okay with that, but don't let them go above a certain point where they're performing better and doing better in general than heroes that require a lot more skill. For example, like Torbjorn compared to Tracer is just doing marginally better right now across all ranks, except maybe like the highest rank, right? But that's like what, the top 1%, top 0.5%. We cannot always just look at that. We do have to consider the overall player base. Now, I'm not saying that, oh, we balance around the plats and the golds. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is we have to have a vision of what we want from this game, that yes, Torbjorn should be able to pressure Tracer a little bit, but not so much to the point that just Tracer cannot exist. So this is kind of one of the problems that like whenever there's a Tracer on the enemy team, I just insta-pick Torb, I toss up the turret, the Tracer just cannot take a flank route anymore, because anytime she tries to flank or take a flank route, my long-range turret with no drop-off, with like decent damage, is just chunking away at her HP bar and forcing her to play slower, forcing her to, find a way to bait, like, get one of her teammates to destroy the turret. But nobody does that for their teammates in Overwatch, because imagine working with your teammates, am I right? Anyways, that's besides the point. My point basically is that when it comes to matchups like this, we have to be a little bit more smart. Yes, in theory, Torbjorn can counter Tracer, and Tracer, if she's smart in the way that she plays the map, she can get rid of the turret, she can recall, she can take a health pack, and then delete the Torbjorn as well, because her spread just very easily fills that circle that is Torbjorn. My point basically is that we need to be smarter with the balance, and we need to not push the quote-unquote easier heroes to be more viable than the ones that are harder to play. There should never be a world where Bastion and Torbjorn are stronger than Genji and Trace. So that's like, I don't want to debate this. You are free to debate this down below. But the skill required to play Bastion and Torb is unbelievably low. And I say this with no offense, but the skill required to play Genji and Tracer is actually really high, and the higher up you go, the harder they become to play, the harder it becomes to play them against all the frustrating interactions within the game, like Lamp, Suzu, Nade, Sleep, you know, like Graviton Surge, and keeping up with like Torp turrets, like, and all these like things that start to like, the better you get at this game, the better that people get at this game, these harder heroes become a little bit harder to play, which is like interesting, since, you know, they like playing these harder heroes, you would think that they would make your life a little bit easier because of the skill to value ratio, but actually it's the other way around. Like when you play them, like you have to do 10 times as much as you would on maybe, let's say, Bastion, Torb, etc., right? There are picks like this for tank as well. Like Mauga is relatively very easy to play. Roadhog is also not that like challenging, other than just getting the basic combo down. So when it comes to at least tank and DPS, we have to keep this in mind, that the balance has to be a little bit careful with who they are pushing in the quote-unquote strong categories, right? I hope my point comes across well, because I understand sometimes I don't word things perfectly. English isn't my first language, but I do my level best with what I do know, so I hope you guys are able to understand what I'm saying here. Next, finally, for now, at least for this video, I have a big problem with the way Overwatch team communicates everything, and I feel like while they do communicate, I feel like a lot of this communication is just them saying nothing. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know, well, they are communicating, they're doing a pretty good job. And it's like, yes, they're communicating, they're telling us things, but here's the thing. They're telling us things that they're not actually telling us things. Like, for example, Jay News comes out and he was like on SUB's podcast, and realistically, we learned nothing, number one. And number two, like the only thing that was like a major takeaway from that podcast was he wants quick play to be sweaty, which is like, fine, whatever, it's their game, their vision, I don't mind that. I already sweat in quick play anyway. Everybody's sweating in quick play. Let's be real, quick play is the new comp anyway. But like, for example, when he said that, yeah, you know, we're looking into getting heroes out of the battle pass, like, you know, it might happen, it might happen. It's like, well, why are you saying like maybe it'll happen or maybe it won't happen? Like, just make up your mind. Like, do you want to do that or do you not want to do that? Like, why are you telling your community something that isn't decided upon? You could have surprised us with that, first and foremost. It could win over some goodwill. And number two, it's like, well, why are you deciding something that is like, that you know is beneficial to the community? Maybe they're scared that they won't make money, etc., etc. Or it's like, well, you kind of have to drop the money part now, because like 𝐓𝐈𝐊𝐿𝐿 is gone, and the team 4 of Overwatch has been convincing us that, well, the money hungry 𝐓𝐈𝐿𝐿 was the one behind a lot of things. Okay, with that being said, like, going into Overwatch 2, I expect the Battle Pass to allow us to make back our credits, and maybe just a little bit more, the same way that Fortnite does. Fortnite's Battle Pass is amazing, and their quest system is amazing, and I really hope Overwatch takes inspiration from there, and mix in some things from Halo as well, since they also have a pretty decent Battle Pass now in the way that the system works. So my hopes is that, you know, from the actual team that tries to communicate with us, whether it's Aaron Keller, Giant News, you know, the artist team, or whoever it is, Alec Dawson, I want them to actually be able to communicate a point. Like, for example, when it comes to balance, they need to be able to share a vision with us that makes sense. They can't just come out and say, yeah, you know, well, we're kind of giga-buffing Roadhog because he's kind of bad, you know. And it's just kind of like, well, it's okay, because majority of the community just doesn't enjoy playing with Roadhog. I think it's one of those heroes where, like, we're okay if he's a little bit weak, but he will have his areas where he's strong. We don't want him to be a generalist tank. And what do? They made him a generalist tank, and now we're just kind of living in this world with Mauga and Roadhog controlling the current season and making the game feel absolutely miserable. So that's kind of what I want. I want better communication. I want to know the philosophy of this game going forward. And I want them to improve everything that we listed, the balance, the events, the quests, just the whole system. So when you log into Overwatch, you feel excited that when I press these buttons, there's going to be something unique for me to look at and fun for me to do. Right now, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like when I click on something, I'm inadvertently being told, buy our battle pass, buy our skins. That's all I feel these days with Overwatch, right? It does even this season, like, there's really nothing happening. Like, think about it, like, we're in the winter event right now, and when you click the winter event tab, like, the biggest thing is there's no game mode. There's no game to play, a unique game mode to play, a map to play. No capture the flag, nothing. It's a shop. That's the event of Overwatch 2. And now 𝐓𝐈𝐿𝐿𝐿 is gone. So if they retain these practices, Team 4 from Overwatch is going to embarrass themselves because it was never Bobby Kotick to begin with. Anyways, everybody, that's going to be it for this video. I will see you guys in the next video where we're going to talk about all sorts of things. So please, if you enjoy this type of, content where we try to be constructive and, criticize the Overwatch, as well as like news, guides, all sorts of things, literally everything Overwatch that you can think about, I'm doing it. I wanted to be known as the Genji guy, but now I kind of want to be known as the Genji guy who's also the Overwatch guy that people come over to, and he speaks about topics that nobody else speaks about. I've been getting a lot of these type of messages. It's really motivating. I'm happy that I can do these type of videos for you guys where there are some topics that nobody's talking about. By the way, if you want me to talk about a topic that isn't being talked about, let me know in the comments down below. With that said, if you want to support the channel for free, you can do so by hitting like and subscribe, and also writing a comment because algorithms and stuff. And finally, if you want to support me financially, use that super chat, man. Help a brother out. I will see you guys in the next video.